Constitutional Court.
A place where people were jailed now is a place where freedom is entrenched.
I do research on African statehood, that's what interests me. And it occurred to me some years ago that the buildings of the state actually convey the state, they embody the state. Who's allowed inside and who's not allowed inside, the history of them, the stories about them. But then what really interested me was what ordinary people think about them. So it's not as interesting what the elites say, the people who built them or commissioned them, but what's really interesting is how the citizens see them. And so I started going around talking to South African citizens about what buildings were important to them and describing them, getting them to describe them to me.
I also believe that most of these things, when they build them, they're not really our things. They just build things because they've seen them overseas.
It makes me feel bad.
Why?
That somebody uyabandlulula, yini ukubandlulula ngesilungu?
Johannesburg Central Police Station. That's the place where Timal died, falling from this building. Man at Jabulani Shopping Center, Soweto.
It used to be a prison, but now it's a police station. Man, Bromfontein.
I was actually born from poverty, and I always wished to voice out my concerns. And I feel like these papers are talking for me and for the whole world. The building is ours. We cannot let it just perish. The life.
Parliament.
There are big doors that you can't open.
The most special for me, though, is Constitutional Hill. I think because the Constitution of South Africa was a departure from the past, it gives us a guide to the future. It gave us a guideline on how to behave, what we needed to think about, what we needed to forgive, what we needed to remember, and how to move forward.
For Counterspace, we're always looking at the relationship between people and the built environment, and specifically within our own context in Johannesburg in South Africa, we have sort of the remnants of a very dark, troubled history, and that's very evident in our built environment, in the architecture, in the urban design, in the fabric. So I think in doing this exhibition, it was very important for us to see how do people react to these very iconic buildings, and how can we, as not only architects and practitioners, how can we as just people living in South Africa challenge the way that we either interpret these buildings or live in these buildings, acknowledging that these structures were used for very sort of violent purposes, and trying to see how do we overcome them, how do we use these structures as reminders of what we shouldn't be, or trying to strive to be something better.
There are different strands of conversation to be had. There are conversations about what you do with colonial era buildings and apartheid era buildings that have particular histories that might be very painful to a lot of people. Whether you start again or whether there's something that you want to keep, either as a way of providing some sort of sense of continuity and security for people, or as a way of reminding people about their history and the story of where they come from, which seems to be very important to a lot of people. A lot of people I spoke to said, we can't get rid of these things. We built them, we're part of them.